Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is 3.3 HW1, Graphing Slope-Intercept Form 2. We're going to go over when I give you 3 coordinates that are not on the 10 by 10 graph. We're going to find the slope and the slope-intercept form, and we're going to still graph a line on a 10 by 10 grid, even though that the 3 coordinates that I give you are not on that grid. So here are the steps. Step 1 is to find the slope of the first 2 coordinates that I give you. The second step is to substitute the third coordinate and the slope into the slope-intercept form, aka y equals mx plus b. Step 3 is solve for b. Step 4, write your equation given slope and your b into slope-intercept form. So NB into slope-intercept form. And then number 5 is graph your equation. So those are the steps. So let's do number 1 together. We'll zoom in. Your coordinates are 28 or 28, 106, 32, 122, and 35, 134. Now these 3 coordinates are clearly, they're not on the 10 by 10 graph. But we still are expected to graph this line. So what we could do, we just take our first 2 coordinates and we find a slope between the first 2 coordinates. So let's zoom out and let's solve these out step by step. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it'll be 122 minus 106. That's y2 minus y1 over 32 minus 28. That's how you find slope. So 122 minus 106, that will get you 16. 32 minus 28 is 4. And 16 over 4 is 4. So our slope is 4, which we represent with m, as we discussed earlier on in the year. So m equals 4. I'm going to put this off to the side. So that's how we find slope. We take the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'll delete that for some room. So now that we found slope, the next step is to plug in our slope and that third coordinate of 35, 134 into y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. We're going to replace the y with 134, aka our y3, our third y coordinate. We're replacing the slope of 4. Notice I put parentheses in. And then x is 35 in the third coordinate, that's x3. Now that I type in those 3 numbers into y equals mx plus b, I solve it out. 4 times 35 is 120, 140. We then subtract 140 from both sides, and we're going to get b equals negative 6. Because we subtracted 140 from here and 140 from there. Now that we got our b and our m, we're going to plug these 2 numbers into our slope-intercept form once again, but we're not going to plug in any other coordinates. We're just plugging in our slope and our y-intercept. So it's going to be y equals 4x minus 6. And that's going to be our answer. That's our equation of the line that goes on this graph. And we're going to do that right now. So y equals 4x minus 6. That's our equation. I'll leave it back there. So negative 6 is down here. So we plot a point at negative 6. Then we're going to go up 4 to the right 1 and plot our second point. So go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 because our slope is 4. Or we could simply just use our graphing calculator and graph them. I prefer you guys using that. But here's the old school way. Doesn't hurt to know that too. And then we successfully graph the line. That goes through 28, 106, 32, 122, and 35, 134. All right, let's do one more. So in this problem here, problem number 2, our 3 coordinates are 15, negative 68, 17, negative 78, and 19, negative 88. Our goal is to graph a line on the 10 by 10 plane that goes through these 3 given coordinates. So in other words, they need to have the same slope and the same y-intercept. So how we go about doing that? Well, we use the slope of the first 2 coordinates. And we could do our process once again. So let's do that. Let's first find the slope between the first 2 coordinates. So that'd be negative 78 minus a negative 68. That's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. x2, which is 17, minus x1 of 15. 2 negatives, you guys know, it makes a positive. So I'm going to change those 2 negatives and make it a positive. Negative 78 plus 68 is negative 10. 17 minus 15 gets you 2. So you got negative 10 over 2, which gets you negative 5. So our slope is negative 5. So m equals negative 5. We'll put that off in the corner. Let's delete this work. Now that we got our slope, we got to find our y-intercept. So we're going to take our 3rd coordinate and plug it into this equation of y equals mx plus b. We're going to replace y with negative 88. Our m is going to be substituted, and we're going to type in our m before, which is negative 5. And our x value in the 3rd coordinate is 19. So those are the 3 numbers we substitute in. Then we crunch it out. So you have negative 88 is equal to, well, negative 5 times 19. That's negative 95. We then add 95 to both sides, and we get b equals 7. Now that we know b equals 7, we put that off to the side. We're going to write our final equation. It's still slope-intercept forms of y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug in negative 5 in for m and plug in 7 in for b. That's our equation, y equals negative 5x plus 7. Next, we graph it. So positive 7 is our y-intercept. So at positive 7, we plot a point. Then we got to go down 5 to the right 1. So we go down 5 to the right 1. We then make our line. And when you do it on a computer, it'll automatically pop up for you. So that's our line of y equals negative 5x plus 7. Now this line, it goes through all 3 of those points that are given because they have the same slope and a y-intercept. All right. If you have any questions, just come to Extra Help. I'll be happy to help you out. Or to ask me during class. I'll be happy to help you out there too. All right. Make sure you finish off the rest of these problems. If you have any questions, please ask. Have a good night.